two most important statistics, win the turnover battle, win the explosive play battle, you're going to win the game. Jalen Hurts is first in explosive plays in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is first in the NFL in fewest turnover-worthy plays. That's amazing.
Mac guys here on Birds 365. Jody McDonald and John McMullen with an hour left to go on this Tuesday edition. We are up to show number 370. Nice round number, John. Before you know it, we'll be at 400. By that point, let's see, that's 30 shows at 6 weeks. Could the Eagles be 9-0 at that point? We'll have to see. Optimism abounds here in Philadelphia as well. It should, with their 3-0 start, with the Jags coming to town, and we'll do that much more on the Jaguars when we get Matt Verderame up. We'll get his opinion on how quickly the Jags have become a competitive team in the National Football League. JM, needed your take from yesterday's Nick Sirianni press gathering. Mr. Competitive Advantage, not all that forthcoming on Eagle injury issues.
No, we'll see Wednesday. Yeah, he's gone down that route. He was a little bit better last year. Now he's going, I remember, I forget who the injury was. And he said, we were doing a press conference. I wish I could remember what the injury was, but somebody asked him about a specific player. And he said, well, you'll get a report later. And 10 minutes later, we were on the practice field and he was out there. It's like, we're going to see it in 10 minutes. You can say it. It's fine. But yeah, who knows?
I remember that.
Yeah. I forget. You remember who the player was? I forget who the player was. I'll try to think of it in the break. But
no, it wasn't one of the tight ends.
Might have been Miles. Might have been Miles coming back.
That's exactly who it was. Yeah. It was Miles.
Yeah, coming back from the hamstring. And he was very and literally, this is not embellishment. 10 minutes later, we were on the practice field because he was doing this hit before practice, and he was out there. So, I mean, you're not getting a competitive advantage in 10 minutes, but
he was way ahead of you guys for 10 minutes there, John.
Yeah, those old tropes die hard. The one I'm most interested in is Landon Dickerson because he was obviously fighting through that foot injury. They took him out towards the end of the game. Pursuo Opeta only, I think it was 11 reps. They weren't good 11 good reps.
Yeah, I saw Opeta in the game, and I'm going, all right, well, they're giving a couple of their offensive linemen a break here because they've got the game well in hand. The broadcast TV guys didn't know that there was any injury involved. That's something. Or is it a guarantee that that the next practice will be a rest day for Landon Dickerson? Because he's
one of those guys. Yeah, he's one of those guys who gets the rest anyway. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he won't be practicing on Wednesday, and but they'll list him as the foot injury rather than the rest because they added him last week on Friday to the injury report. And then they quickly said he's going to play, but at least behind the scenes. And he did play, and but clearly he's dealing with something that he's not completely right. And we'll see if he's back by Thursday or Friday. He'll probably try to gut through it, but he's not. And this is sort of I think a lot of fans don't understand. I mean, guys play hurt all the time, and it affects their performance. And they play hurt because they're better than the alternative. But, we saw it with Jalen Hurts, the most obvious example when he was fighting through the injury he suffered last year. Ultimately, after the season, he underwent surgery. He was fighting through it. He was playing through the injury. He wasn't the same player from a mobility standpoint. Happens all the time. Guys fight through injuries, and you'll say, well, so-and-so didn't have a great game. Our Nate Gary, player Eagles fans really disliked, and they couldn't understand why Jim Schwartz and Ken Plajoel Loved the guy, loved it. And, it came out later. He played a whole season with a sports hernia because they needed him. Now, what I'm not trying to say he would have been a great player had he not had the sports hernia, but coaches have a lot of respect for things like that. So there's always sort of contextual issues.
And that's the National Football League. You have to be able to play through certain, not injuries, but pain, levels of tolerance of pain. It's expected of guys. Some guys are better at it and more willing to put up with that much more pain than others. So I remember that Gary story after the fact because, I was one of them going, why is this guy still in the lineup? Why are they still playing him? He's just not getting the job done. And then we found out after the fact that he was playing through pain. And even as an injured player, the Eagle coaching staff thought he was a better risk out there on the field. I forget who it was. We're both showing our age here, Johnny. We couldn't come up with guys who had done something or said something. You couldn't remember. It was Miles, who was the injured player who you found out 10 minutes later. Oh, he's not that injured. He's out there on the field. Who was it we had on who gave us the good line about depending on where you draw the line on statistical analysis, that you can add certain stats and facts to be able to say something that makes it look more awe-inspiring than it actually was. I think it was last week after Jalen's first 2 weeks that he was the only quarterback.
Yeah, that was Kincaid. Yeah, Kevin Kincaid.
Kincaid
crossing broad. Yeah,
exactly.
He's right too because and he brought up Robert Covington. Yeah, he's got 0.9 steals. It's like you can draw that line anywhere you want. But I got to tell you, through 3 games, you can draw any line you want, and Jalen Hurts is going to look good.
Robert Covington and 0.8% tipped passes.
Yeah,
you keep adding stats to make a point, and you can make it look as good as you want. I saw a pretty good one on Jalen Hurts today. That through 3 games, Jalen Hurts has over 900 yards passing and 100 yards rushing. That there hasn't been a player in the National Football League that has done that since at the most 1940. They can't even go back and check some of the stats from before that. So at least for 80 years, no NFL player, no quarterback has thrown for 900 yards in his first 3 games and rushed for over 100 yards in his first 3 games. That's one that isn't, I don't think, is generally created. That's just flat out stats. That's just showing that you are a combination player. And the key to me is the 900 passing yards, because that's a 9-to-1 ratio. You and I debated this a little bit last week about how Jalen Hurts' strength is still the thing that Jalen Hurts does best in comparison to all the other quarterbacks in the league is that he's a better runner, that Lamar Jackson might be the only better runner as far as a quarterback goes than Jalen Hurts. He isn't at that level at passing just yet. Oh, he's getting close, Johnny Mac. 900 yards through 3 games. He's moving up that quarterback rating list pretty damn quickly, is he not?
Yeah. And by the way, I think number 2 overall in the Pro Football Focus rankings. Number 1, Lamar Jackson. Interesting. The game's changing. People are more open to the dual threat, and it's they see it with their eyes how difficult it is for defenses to deal with. But I want to give you my Jalen Hurts stat, and then this is the one I love because this is all the Eagles care about. And if you listen to Nick Sirianni, if you listen to Shane Steichen, if you listen to Jonathan Gannon, every single one of them says the same thing. 2 most important statistics: win the turnover battle, win the explosive play battle. You're going to win the game. Jalen Hurts is first in explosive plays in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is first in the NFL in fewest turnover-worthy plays. That's amazing. That's amazing because usually when you're making big plays, and it's not just running, there's been a ton of deep balls for Jalen Hurts. Usually you're taking chances.
Yep.
We talk about Trayvon Diggs defensively, makes so many explosive plays defensively. He takes chances. That's the reason he makes those plays. This guy's making the most explosive plays, and he's taking care of the football the best. That's amazing. I've quoted Dennis Green a lot this week because I keep bringing it up. I said, people are crowning the Eagles after 3 games, and I said, whoa, 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 slow down. It's been phenomenal. The 3 games have been phenomenal, but slow down. And then I'm looking at the Giants last night. I'm like, yeah, we are who they thought we are, what we thought they were. Another Denny Greenism. They stink, basically. Even though they were 2-0, and
defense looked okay last night, John.
I give Brian Daboll credit. Same thing with Matt Eberflus in Chicago. I don't know how he's won games, but he's won games. But I know those 2 teams are not going to be relevant. It's a small sample size. It's a small sample size for the Eagles as well. Through this 3 game, they've looked like the best team in the NFL. Now, I haven't seen every play of the Bills. The Bills are really good, but the Bills lost the game. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the best team in the NFL was on the field with the Bills on.
Yeah, Sunday. I know. You're a big Miami guy. I think the Eagles have been the best team in the NFL through 3 games. Now, it's 3 games. But here I'm going to pull it up and see where we are. So if you use the film, the PFF ratings, number 1 overall, Eagles. Number 1 offense, Eagles. Number 1 passing offense, Eagles. Number 1 pass blocking offense, Eagles. Number 1 receiving, Eagles. You got to get to the running game, believe it or not, before they're not number 1. It's amazing the way they played. It is amazing, but it's also, and I hate, and people are going to get mad at me, and this is the only point they're going to talk. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. There's going to be hiccups. Somebody's going to figure out something somewhere along the line. But what I can say is this is a really, really good football team.
Does that start this week against Jacksonville? The fact that the Jags have some very good young players on defense, very high draft picks on defense. Yeah, they used the number 1 overall on Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago, but they used the number 1 pick on a defensive player last year, this past draft. And they had 2 number 1 picks, so they used another one on Devin Lloyd, the linebacker. Is the Jacksonville Jaguars the best defense they'll have played in the first 4 games?
Yes. Yes.
So it might the inability to sustain might start this week, is what you're saying.
It's still a very young team. I'm of the belief you do have to learn to win. I mentioned that with Detroit. Like Detroit to me is a much better team. I just talked about a much better team than Chicago, a much better team than the New York Giants. But they haven't learned to win. They had a game 1 this weekend, and they lost it in the final minute. They outplayed Minnesota. They blew it at the end. They still haven't learned to win games, which I think is a process you go through in the NFL. Now, the good thing about Jacksonville, they have a coach who knows how to win games, and so far through 3 games, they've looked really, really good. And that was a really impressive performance. And they just have, because they drafted so high for so long, they have certain guys who just have freakish talent. And it starts with Lawrence and Walker. And you've already seen Walker. People, how could that guy be the number 1 overall? Well, you've already seen how that guy could be the number 1 overall pick. He's freakishly talented. Ed mentioned Devin Lloyd. Josh Allen in recent years is another guy who's turned into a really good player already. James Robinson, Travis Etienne is in the backfield. They have a lot of good players, and it kind of snuck up on people. And once I remember we were talking in the offseason about the betting markets and getting some value. And now the Eagles look very valuable from where they were back in March, where it was like 45-1 or whatever it was. There was tremendous value in the Eagles. Now you can't get value in the Eagles. There was always tremendous value in Jacksonville because if it clicked for Trevor Lawrence, they were going to take a massive leap. I don't know if it's clicked for him. If it has, watch out. They're going to be a good team.
I think one of the pluses for them, and yes, right now, John and I aren't going to make picks today, but we're both leaning toward the Eagles, getting toward 4-0. I can guarantee you that. I actually am more impressed with the Jaguars because of the step they've taken up on defense than what they've done on offense. I expected the offense to be better because it just made sense that Lawrence was going to be better in year number 2 than year number 1. He was actually going to be coached up by a guy who knows a little something about quarterbacks, Doug Peterson, as compared to what he had to deal with last year. It's the Jacksonville's improved defense that actually has impressed me more than what the offense has done so far this season. All right, Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Coming up next, we'll get the perspectives of someone outside of the Philadelphia area. Sometimes it's nice to see how other people see it when they're not inundated with it on a day-in, day-out basis. Matt Verderam, one of the best national writers and podcasters when it comes to the National Football League from Fanside, and he's going to join us next here on Birds 365.